So Paul DePodesta late last week moved on. He's going back to the Major League Baseball. He'll be in charge of baseball for the Rockies. Albert Breer on if the loss of the chief strategy officer on the Browns signals more changes are coming for the Browns.
No, because I don't think it was prompted. And so this, I think, was a Paul move, not a Browns move. And so, my understanding is their plan is not their plan for right now is not to replace him, which is another interesting piece of that whole puzzle. Because I know some people had speculated would Andrew Berry move into that role and then hire a GM? Would they look at the structure of all of it? I know that some people, there have at least been rumblings that Paul had kind of dabbled into into some of the other areas that Haslam has, in advising Jimmy on basketball and soccer too. So, I think because this was a Paul decision, it's not like this was like the precursor to any other moves. And I think, what's interesting now is like what this sort of means for the role of analytics in the organization and how they're going to set that up. Because again, like my understanding is their plan is not to replace him. And does this mean like Andrew Berry's more empowered in certain ways? Does this change the way analytics like fits into the overall structure of scouting? I know AB buys into a lot of that stuff, so maybe it doesn't change all that much. Just, I think it brings up a lot of those sorts of questions.
So, Sam, I guess my initial thought was when DePodesta left, and again, I have no idea if they plan on moving on from Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry. It probably will be determined over the last part of this year. It would open up the organization to have somebody who comes in and says, I need say over this, I need my GM. It would be a veteran coach. I don't know of one that's out there. The guy that I was thinking of would have been like a Harbaugh or somebody of that ilk. Can you think of anybody like that isn't 75 years old that might still want to run an NFL organization that it would make sense to give carte blanche to?
Yeah, not really. I don't. I think that kind of model of NFL kind of control is almost dying out. You're not seeing these old school head coach and general manager and sort of guys that are in control of over everything. And I think people thought that was a big part of why Bill Belichick didn't get another job in the NFL right out of his New England tenure. Now, subsequently, maybe like more evidence has emerged as to other reasons you might not have wanted Bill Belichick in the building. But at the time, that seemed like a big part of it, right? Is, do you want to give total control, completely upend your organization and almost go back 20 years to give control to a guy like Bill Belichick, who's, at his age, who knows how long that would last? I think now it's very much settled into this model of, general manager, head coach, maybe there's a sort of third executive in there as well, a sort of VP of football or, a guy in control of all the other elements. And it's much more of a kind of collaborative, almost two or three pillars of the organization rather than let's find one guy, like a Mike Holmgren or whatever, who's going to control the entire thing from the ground up.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that's frustrating Browns fans is because they have no idea who makes what decisions in this organization. And I can't tell you the amount of voicemails we get. We stopped taking them because it's, what does Paul DePodesta do? I had no idea,
right.
Chief strategy, he's the chief strategy officer.
And that's part of the kind of, all these questions about, well, what kind of difference does this make for the Browns? Nobody really knows what he was doing in the first place. So it's difficult to know how much to attribute to him in any of these decisions and how much it is going to change. Like, how much does losing his voice and his input, his influence from the organization affect anything? Nobody knows from the outside.